Hello, everyone. This is Tammy Fisher with In the Doll World, and I'm here today with my wonderful co-host, Miss Georgette Taylor.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Miss Georgette Taylor.
Hey, Miss Tammy.
And we are blessed today to be joined by our sister, Miss Darla Davenport-Powell, who is the CVO of Greater Works LLC. Thank you for joining us, Sister Darla.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sister Georgette and Sister Tammy. It is indeed an honor to be here.
We're very welcome. We're so
Yes, an
happy
honor
that
to
you're
be
here.
with you. Yes. So you've done and continue to do so many great things. So I'm just going to start off with our question, and we're going to do your journey because your journey is amazing. So please tell us where your doll journey began and how it landed you here with us today.
Oh, how much time do we have? We're talking about 40 years plus. So it really started with my mother, who worked at the Horseman Doll Factory in Lexington, South Carolina for 20 plus years. And my mother would always bring home every Christmas dolls for us, my sisters and I. And I remember vividly that thirsty Walker doll, the one that was bigger than me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she had the wherewithal to know, again, that she wanted dolls that at least had some form of representation in terms of her daughters. So that doll was a white doll dipped in chocolate. And what I mean by that is that it had the brown color, but the features were Caucasian features.
Okay.
And so that was my introduction in the doll world. And one of the summers I can remember working at Horseman Doll Factory, and where I got a chance to see how dolls were created from inception to packaging to getting out of the door. And so that was the greatest imprint, I would say. And then when I think about programming and think about what we would watch on television every Saturday morning, those Saturday morning cartoons would be so excited, you know, to get up and to look at all the cartoons. And I remember one in particular, Romper Room. And I would sit there on the edge of my seat because I knew at the very end, Miss Nancy was going to take out that magic mirror and she was going to call my name. And I sat there every Saturday waiting for Miss Nancy to call my name, and she never called my name. And I can remember the feeling, you know, it's like, don't I matter? You know, I'm here too, you know, I'm here too. And I felt invisible. I felt invisible. So even though my mom made sure that we had some form of representation, when I would look at television shows, it didn't have the depiction. It didn't have, I couldn't see myself. And so that was also an imprint. And little did I know, fast forward, that I would in essence form a multimedia children's edutainment company that created dolls, books, games, apparel, and soon to be animated television shows.
Wow.
To in essence give that child who's longing to see himself or herself, not just a sense of self, but self. Because we throw that phrase around, representation matters. It really matters. Representation really matters. When we go to those toy aisles and we have our children there, they're looking on that toy space for a toy that looks like them. They're looking for that game that they play with some type of narrative that speaks to their experience. And when they don't see that, then what kind of messages are they receiving? They're receiving the message that you don't matter or you don't exist. You know, that type of erasure that we feel here in this country when we don't see ourselves depicted authentically, accurately, because we're depicted oftentimes stereotypically, but not authentically. So those were the two greatest imprints, my mother and also watching those cartoons on Saturday mornings.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you created this beautiful baby, Naya, and you tell us about how that how that began and the story behind it, because it's beautiful.
Well, I can't claim all the credit because my husband had something to do with it. And in fact, he had a lot to do with it. Naya was our firstborn. And as most parents, we're excited. You know, we want to make sure that she has the right toys. We want to make sure that she has the right educational materials. We want to make sure that, you know, her world is a depiction of something that's stimulating and invigorating and inspiring. And we went looking for dolls and books, and we came up shorthanded. We came up shorthanded looking for that book that told the story of an African American family, a little girl with both parents there to guide her as she navigated, you know, the world. And we came up short. We looked for that doll that looked like Naya, and we came up short. Little did I know, because my major was mass media. I didn't have a clue that I was getting ready to embark on a journey that was going to include publishing and toy manufacturing. But Naya provided so much inspiration, you know, her antics, where it's like somebody needs to write a book about this little girl, and that's somebody. So we started out with Here Comes Naya book and audiotape, and I know that's dating me, but it's a story of a little girl, the day in the life of a toddler. And what we didn't know at the time is that others would read the book, educators would read the book as well, and would invite us to come into the schools where we created the wonderful world of imagination using the book and the tape and slides and music to get children excited about reading, writing, publishing, and telling their own stories.
Oh, very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that.
That's very cool.
Yes. Yes. So how did that journey embark upon the creation of the doll? Because you started with the books.
We started with the book, and I always wanted to do a doll, but I didn't really know how and what that would look like in terms of being a doll manufacturer. However, one day I was reading an article and I read about a doll maker, and she didn't live too far from where I lived. And I called her, and she shared her manufacturer. She shared the trade secrets as to what it took for her to create the Shining Star doll. And so I contacted her manufacturer in New York and was able to get grant money and some of the monies that my mom had saved, you know, from the pension money that they had given her, $2,000, to begin the process of manufacturing the first Here Comes Naya doll. And the first Here Comes Naya doll, which has been in retirement for quite some time, she spoke Spanish, Swahili, and English. In fact, I have her here. And see what Naya's going to say. Now, you want to talk this morning?
Let's count from 1 to 10 in Kiswahili. Moja, Billy, Tatu, Une, Tano, Sita, Saba, Nane, Tisa, Kumi.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
That's so nice. So let me ask you, when you were doing the book, when you did the book, did the story of the book, or the child in the book, Naya, did she speak those languages, or you just decided to create the languages when you created the doll?
No, she didn't speak those languages, but I decided to create those languages or include those languages because, number one, when we go to school, and when we went to school, I don't remember the curriculum offering an African language. And that's why I wanted to introduce to children Swahili, which is a very, very known African language. And so that was the reason why we decided on Swahili. And of course, in terms of Spanish, the second language in terms of the United States. So I wanted to introduce Spanish, Swahili, and of course, English.
Okay. That's cool. I was wondering
it's very cool.
If she did that, she was speaking that before during the book, or if that was just something created specifically for the doll. So, okay, great.
Specifically for the doll, because again, when we travel, children in Africa, they know a plethora of languages.
Yes.
You know, we could barely speak one over here. And so the key was to introduce children to different languages early, thereby introducing different cultures.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
that really is.
Yeah,
powerful. Yeah. So with Naya and the different languages, is that her voice? So does she know those?
That is,
okay, so she
that
knew
is
those
Naya's
languages.
voice, right? She was 5 years old at the time. So that's our Naya, that's Naya's voice. And Naya's now 38 years old with her own Nyla, who's 5 years old, who's doing the voicing of the animation. So again, life is really interesting. Yeah, full circle.
That is
4
so
generations
beautiful.
of
Look at that legacy.
ladies.
That's great. I love it.
I do too.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So what's going on with you now? What's, you know, because this 40-year journey is, you know, you've done lots of different things. What are you doing now?
Well, I just, first of all, I have to say this because one of the things I get so excited about, I get excited about meeting people along the way. And one of the things that I think about, even in terms of how far we've gotten, we haven't gotten this far because we've had the capital, but we've had in-kind services, and we've had people like you and Georgette, you know, who would call us up and says, okay, how can we partner? What can we do to be able to foster, you know, greater promotion of what you've created? We have lots of content. We have loads of prototypes, even in terms of our doing the paper doll partnership together. So that's what the journey has been. We started in 1990 with the original Naya doll. Wow. And then in 2000, we partnered with a toy manufacturer and did the revised Naya doll for K-mart. In 2006, we were on the American Inventor show, and we took that one doll, but because we had a treatment with other dolls, meaning we were always thinking about the animation, just like when I wrote the book, I was thinking about the dolls. Well, we had the treatment, and because we had the treatment, the company was able to do a Naya prototype and a Lope prototype, Michiko, Leanne, Karen, and Luis. Naya and Friends was birthed on the American Inventor show. And again, in 2010, when we went to the ABC Kids Expo, we created Naya and her African friends, because when she travels, she meets friends, and they learn different languages, they do different things, they play games. So that Naya, Ife, Yoliswa, and Amira. That was in 2010. In 2011, we did the paper dolls. In 2013, we did the We Are Friends book. So we created, again, the Naya brand, but she expanded it to Niyakids. It was Naya, Jake, who's a wheelchair friend, Ife, Michiko, and Luis. In 2021, we created Naya and the Clubhouse Crew. And that's what we have here. And Naya and I, we co-authored Naya and the Clubhouse Crew. This is what we're going to take and jump off into animation.
Nice.
So what have we been doing? We've been working on the animation strategy. We also going into the gaming area as well. So animation and gaming, those are the next ventures.
Wow,
that's great.
That is so exciting. Yes, they're so cool. I love it.
Yeah.
And now your daughter's working on that with you?
Absolutely. Again, like I said, we co-authored Naya and the Clubhouse Crew. Nyla has already voiced the Naya introduction. We've already rigged the main character. So we're looking forward to continuing this journey. And as my son said, becoming more current. We have to maintain relevance.
Well, he's true about that. He's right about that.
Yeah, that relevancy is really hard in this day of technology. It's like, boom, you know, tomorrow it's something different. Yeah. But you all are doing a great job. You're riding the right path. That's what's happening. People are playing games and the animation. So wow.
Yeah, that is.
And here's the thing, gaming, $75.8 billion in 2021, and that's with a negative 1.1 loss. So by the end of the year, it should level off. But see how much money is put into games, and when we look at who the majority of the children playing the game, you know, and are these games again reflective of their experiences? Oftentimes not. And that's where we come to change the game. Literally.
So with your games, what type of games are they? Like
Educational.
okay,
Again, we're
that's what I
combining
was
that. It's
expecting.
edutainment.
Okay.
Everything that we do is edutainment. There's the entertainment component, but then there's the education component as well.
Mhm.
So what can we expect to see in the games? Like what type of education?
We're still doing our research and development in terms of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Doing our
Okay.
research and development, and the one thing that I'm finding more than anything else, problem solving
Mm-hmm.
is always critical. Problem
Always.
solving and being awarded in terms of how
Mhm.
well we can solve problems.
Yeah. Problem solving and critical thinking.
Critical thinking,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
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 Yeah. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
that's very key.
So when can we expect to see the game and the animation?
I have
Oh.
been accepted into the American University incubator program.
Okay.
And that's where we are going to be able to get the resources needed to be able to develop both the game as well as the animation.
Yay!
So stay tuned.
Oh,
Congratulations on
yes.
that.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Yes.
you.
Yeah, we're excited that you were accepted and that you're going into a program that is allowing you to continue to not only bless yourself and your journey, but your journey is so big and it blesses all of us. You know, it comes out and children are going to be learning more access to learning different languages and
Yes.
yeah, I'm super I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I am yeah.
Thank you.
What I'm excited about seeing the expansion of
Mm-hmm.
you know what a doll can bring to the table.
Yes.
From that doll, you created all these other different areas to help you know our children to be represented in so many different areas, and I think that's really so powerful. And thank you for that. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
that's just really a game changer in a lot of ways because I think you know I think you will separate. Okay, so you have a gaming and then you have dolls, but now you can kind of merge that together in a way. You know, because of this doll, now you have this new game, and now you have this new area of blending those two together. I love that. That's great.
And it's limitless. It's really
Yes.
limitless, you know, and that's the thing more than anything else. When I talk to young people, this mind that we have, I mean, it is just so fascinating. We look at these computers, but this computer is so fascinating. And the only limit that we have are the ones that we impose and the ones that we internalize that are imposed by others.
Right.
Outside of that, it's like the sky is not even the limit. I am so reminded of sitting at my kitchen table in Fort Washington, Maryland, with my mother there, putting shoes and socks on her doll, you know, where she had worked at Horseman Doll Factory for all of these years. And now she's sitting at a table looking at a doll that looks like her granddaughter, created by her daughter, you know, and to be able to envision,
Wow.
my whole thing is, you know, could you have envisioned that? And the thing about it is that even in terms of her and my daddy, they provided whatever was needed in terms of the dreams. I'm a professional drummer. And I don't know how many people know that, but I've been playing drums for a long, long time.
We did not know that.
No.
Awesome.
And my dad went out and got me a drum set from a pawn shop, you know, and I started playing drums 9 years old, I guess, and professionally at 12 years old. But again, they provided what was needed to feed, you know, those dreams. And so to sit there and see how they were coming into fruition, I can't even begin to tell you what that felt like and what that feels like. Those are the things, those are the stories, you know, that gives us that added drive whenever there's that lull and whenever there's that holding pattern, because there's been years in terms of holding patterns in terms of the original Naya doll, but it didn't stop us. It fueled us to be able to look in other ways and to think in, you know, new ways and to do new things with new people. I would not, again, I would not have had the opportunity of being able to sit here on this platform if you all didn't dream that, you know what, we can put our talents and our abilities and our resources and our skills together to be able to create a whole doll world. Who does that? Georgette and Tammy. Who does that? I'm saying.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
But you know, I think the tenacity is, you know, because you have this vision, right? You had a vision of what you wanted that to be. you know, and so that, I think that drives that, you know, it's the, and the fact that you have the tenacity, you have the drive, has created a legacy for your family. And I think that's some things that we don't think about in our communities of building legacies, you know, that surpass your mother and you and your child, and now your grandchild has something to look up to. And so I think that's what's so unique, I think, about your brand. It's not just a doll company. It's not just entertainment company. It is a legacy that you have created.
Said it. You
know?
said it is legacy. And I have to tell another story because I'm a storyteller. I'll never forget when Naya and I were invited by the Clintons to be a part of the inaugural committee for the late President Nelson Mandela. And Naya was getting ready to write an article in school about President Nelson Mandela. And I said, well, why don't you write a letter? You know, he's coming into the States. And so I helped her pen the letter. Long story short, we got a call inviting us. So there we were standing there as part of the inaugural committee to hear President Nelson Mandela. But it gets better, because we didn't meet him personally there, but we got invited to the press club, where we were invited to a private luncheon with President Nelson Mandela and his daughter. And Naya gave him, I'll never forget, she gave him the Naya doll with the note that said, to the children of South Africa, keep believing.
Oh, it's
and I
beautiful.
made a promise to him. I said, you know, I don't know what it's going to take, but I'm going to do all that I can for any child who wants the Naya doll, not just here in these states, but globally, to be able to have the Naya doll. And so those are the personal kinds of things that, again, that keep me excited about what we've been able to do and what we will continue to do.
Yeah.
From generation to generation
to
generation.
That's beautiful.
Man, that must be so cool though. Like, you know, having your mom there to see. Is your mom still there? I'm sorry.
No.
Is your mom? Okay.
No, my mom made her transition.
Okay, but she did see the doll. So she did.
Yes.
Yeah. So having your mom, when you created that doll, knowing that she worked in a factory that created dolls, like, you know, that must have been so exciting for both of you. That is wow.
And this is what she said
father,
to
you know. So,
right,
yeah.
and my father too. And this is what she said, Georgette. She says, I don't know what they're taking, or why they're taking so long in terms of having this doll all over the world. She said, but one day, she said, that Naya doll is going to be all over the world. She said, I don't know what's taking. She said, I've seen dolls and I've seen dolls, but none as pretty and brilliant as the Naya doll. And one day that doll is going to be all over. And that's what I hear in my ear, Georgette. Yeah. That's what I hear in me. One day the Naya doll is going to be all over the world.
Wow.
From my mama's mouth to God's ears.
That's right. That's so phenomenal. I love it. I love it, man.
That is
Love
beautiful.
it. Yeah.
And I love what you just said, because it made me think about the collaboration that we've done with you to share for the National Doll Day, to share the Naya paper doll. And your mother's correct. That Naya doll is all over the world, because we have an international audience.
Wow. You know, and that gives me goosebumps, and it really speaks to how wonderful it is to be in community.
Yes.
You know, because where I am and where you sit and where Georgette sit, we didn't get here. We didn't get here by ourselves. No. You know, a lot of people pay blood, sweat, and tears so that we can be able to occupy these seats.
Right.
And we occupy these seats so we can make room for others to be able to come to express and to be able to display their gifts. And my thing is to exhaust all the gifts, to exhaust all the gifts, to leave nothing inside, but to exhaust all the gifts. That's what I want to do. Exhaust all the gifts.
That's beautiful.
I can't stop smiling, just so y'all know.
I'm in the same place. Your story is just filling my heart up with love. It's that whole thing about, you know, from your parents to your grandbaby, just.
And that's why we do what we do.
Yes,
and that's why we do what we do. You know, here we sit. Could you and Georgette imagine in such a short time, from the
Yes.
time that you all had the conversation about what you wanted to do, and then that first launching, that first show, and now all those downloads later, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, neither has it entered into the hearts of man yet and still what is in store for you, Tammy, and what's in store for you, Georgette, because you love the Lord and you love his people. And everything that you do, you're doing it from a place of love. And so those are the things that we can't even put a price. We can't put a price on.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. We cannot. And I think that's what drives the passion, is the love that we have for that, you know, the love that, like I said before, the love of just being able to showcase people like you, to share those journeys that you've had with so many other people, because it gives other people, it inspires other people. You know, it's like, okay, if she can do that back when she did it, and this is how far they've come, you know, and she's created this legacy, I can do that. I have this idea, but they won't, somebody won't get to experience that if they don't hear your story. You know, if they don't hear your story of how it was done, or how it can be done, or where they can show, where they can, you know, wind up at. I'm just always so excited, like I said, to be able to share the amount of knowledge and passion and purpose that, you know, that you bring to the table, and what it is that you do within the doll community.
Yes.
Thank you. I put that book up because it says Naya and the Clubhouse Crew, a surprise inside. And I guess I have to do the spoiler, but the surprise is that everybody has come here with a gift. And it's up to us to be able to discover that gift and to be able to share that gift with the world. Everybody has come here with a gift. And sometimes when we help others in terms of theirs, we discover our own.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I look at it even in terms of systems. You know, the whole point of it is that all of us and each of us, it's an interrelatedness. You know, it's interrelated. You know, whereas I may have the vision, you may have the actual wherewithal to be able to execute the vision, or you may even have something to add on to the vision. So it was one way, you know, when we come together, again, i.e. in the doll world, you know, you know, your vision, Georgette's vision, you know, Tammy's vision, but together I mean, it's just, and then it keeps growing. It has legs, it has wings, it goes beyond even what you could have thought or imagined. And that's because again, you're not limiting it. You're not hoarding it. You're not holding it close to your chest, but you are in essence with arms outstretched, sharing it with the world.
Yes.
That's true.
Thank you. It's beautiful. We appreciate that. I was sitting here thinking about your journey, and you said it's been a 40-year journey. What would you say to someone who wants to make a doll? What kind of advice would you give to them?
Oh, to make a doll. It goes back to your why. Why do you want to do it? Because that why will carry you, even when you have those rough patches, and you will have rough patches, you know, even when it may not appear to be happening, or, you know, coming into fruition, or you encounter, you know, this experience or that experience. Go back to your why. And if your why is from a place, you know, a place in terms of love, you know, that's where passion is birthed, a place of love. I love doing what I do. I love writing children's stories because I love children seeing themselves in the stories that I write. I love creating dolls because I love the smiles that I see on children's faces who connect with the dolls. I love doing animated television shows because I love children seeing themselves in the story. So that's my why. And my why is also, it's reinforced in terms of who? My mother and my daddy, who sacrificed so much So that when I enter a space or I come into a room, I can, in essence, sit down and not only be invited to the table, but to eat at that table. When once upon a time they could not even enter the room. So you have to get to the why of why do you want to do a doll, and be very clear. Some people want to do a doll because they see the money part, and that's okay. But you be clear with your why,
Right.
because when those times come that are going to, in essence, challenge, and you're going to say, why in the world did I do it? You can always go back to your why. So what would I tell them? I would tell them to make sure that your motive would, in essence, support you during those times that you can't even see the fruition of what your vision has created, or what you thought. That's what I would say.
No.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's powerful. So much.
Wow.
It's always interesting speaking with you. I feel like, it's almost like I've attended a sermon. I feel uplifted and
Yes.
reminded of who I am and whose I am, and it's just so beautiful to be in that space.
Yeah, it really is. That's exactly how I feel, Tammy. You're right about that. Thank you for that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But I do want to find out from you though, because I know you talk about doll making and manufacturing and all of that, and I know you've done that for so many years. What really has been some of the challenges that has showed up in your journey where you thought, oh my gosh, I just can't do this anymore? You know what I mean? Like, what has been those challenges? Because I know there's been challenges. And
okay, now again, you have to understand this is 40 years. So even starting with the Naya book, where we thought we had a publisher who took my manuscript, and it took me a year and a half to get that manuscript back. Wow. And promised deadlines, never met the deadlines. I mean, and I was green. I mean, I was just naive in terms of knowing how that whole thing works. So I entrusted do not give your manuscript to anybody. Okay, number one. And number two, you shouldn't have to pay someone else to publish. You can self-publish now, and then there are other routes. But I paid him monies that I had gotten. I was artist in residence in Washington, D.C., and I paid him money to be able to in essence, reproduce these books. And it took a whole year and a half for me to get them. When I finally got it, that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to have to learn. I'm going to have to, do what I need to do so that I can, in essence, create my own publishing company. And that's what I did. So that was one thing. Another thing in terms of the dolls, we got the money. We finally got the money in order to get the first.
How did you get your money? I
had a brother-in-law. I had a brother-in-law who worked in a bank, and he knew that South Carolina had this thing where you can get part of the money by grant, and then you can get another part in terms of loan. So he really structured that. So that was the first. That was the way that we got the first shipment, and got the shipment only to see that some of the dolls were damaged. So we had to send those back. Then we got a call one day. After we finished our relationship with the manufacturer, got a call that the dolls were showing up different places, and that they were far less than, he had sold them to a salvage company. And so people were calling and said, how come I'm paying this and you're charging this? Right. So then that was a whole nother thing. And I mean, and in terms of having that challenge of getting seed money to be able to go to the next level, because what we would do is put the money back into. And then, of course, when we said, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to go to these manufacturers and we're going to pitch. So we went, only to hear that had you gotten here 6 months earlier, because we're now coming out with this doll, flavor of the month, then, oh yes, Naya doll, and then we call, even in terms of some of the production companies, it's like, well, had you gotten, so a lot of those, had you gotten here, and a lot of, oh, don't you know the Naya doll is before her time? I mean, you're talking about an African-American lead with universal appeal. Who's going to want to watch that on a children's network, Enter Dora? You see, and so before Dora, well before a lot of things. Yes. But the thing about it is that in the midst of it, I could not have had a better legal representation. My lawyer was Barney's lawyer, and he represented me all those years pro bono.
Wow.
Wow.
You know,
That's
even in
wonderful.
terms of what you see now, in terms of the prototypes, my partner was Suzanne Mills Winkler. She worked at Mattel for 15 years as their senior exec in large dolls. So even in the midst of what seemed to have been a setback, it was always a setup, always a setup. At the time, you don't feel that.
Right. Yes,
Like,
exactly.
what in the world is going? All I want to do is create dolls and books and games and animation. Why are all of these roadblocks? Part of the process, part of the journey. And my sister said something so key. She says, think about a detour. Oftentimes detours take you farther down, closer to, than what you would have done had you gone straight. So life is filled with detours and delays, but delays are not defeat.
Good. Yes.
Unless you see them as defeat.
Unless you accept that, right?
Unless you accept that. Unless you accept
beautiful.
that.
That's power.
So I mean, go on and on and on.
No, that's
won't.
great. I love it.
Power.
I mean, yeah, I just wanted
Yeah.
I wanted to know, because a lot of times, you know, you don't want to just have, I mean, we know it's not all rosy. We know that.
No.
But hearing some of the challenges, I think, you know, it still connects to people and they can relate and like, oh yeah, that happened to me. So, but she, you know, persevered or something like that. So I just wanted to be able to know what some of those little challenges were doing that. Because I've created my own doll, so I know plenty of challenges along the way. And so, especially since, you know, you started back when you did, I was just curious of what those challenges were. So, yeah.
Yeah. And even today, you know, as I listen to parents and says, we can't find a doll. We can't find it's like, oh, we have loads and loads and loads of beautiful African-American dolls and dolls, you know, of color, and, you know, dolls in terms of biracial dolls. We have, oh, I can't find it. It's like, I'm here. I'm doing that saying, I'm here. And that's why this platform is so important, because it's a platform that lets the world know that we are here. We are here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things I think about being like part of just the general public. I think as a part of the general public, you don't understand how many dolls are actually there. You think whatever you see in your big box store, that's all the dolls in the world. We keep hearing from people, I cannot find a black doll. I created a black doll because I couldn't find a black doll. And there's so many black dolls. So we want to uplift the voices of people like you, of the creators who are making these beautiful dolls, and help people to be able to find these dolls. You know, so it helps the person who's looking for the doll, then it helps to support the doll artists into making money so that they can make more dolls, and in your case, more dolls, books, games, animation. Yeah.
The whole nine. You mentioned something too, Tammy. You mentioned I Am Enough. We have the I Am Enough Foundation, and we have the I Am Enough t-shirts, and it would be really, really a dream of mine to be able to partner with a company, you know, in terms of that message. Because again, when we look at the bullying, when we look at the self-esteem issues, we can't get enough of that messaging that we are enough, you know, flaws and all, we are enough, you know, we are perfect in our imperfections, you know, and that's a message for our children as well as our adults.
And that's interesting that you brought that up. The superintendent, I think that's what his title, of the Albuquerque Public Schools just sent out a message. He sent a letter to the parents, and he's saying basically the kids are really having a hard time. They are fighting, there's more violence, they're just having a hard time right now. And I think 3 days into the school year, we had a school shooting. A 13-year-old killed a 13-year-old. And it's just like, you know, just the ramifications of that for both of those children, their families, and it was at school. So anybody who saw it. So, you know, my prayers and thoughts go out to those families. But what I wanted to say is, yes, we need to be working, especially during this time when we were in lockdown, because we were having less interactions with each other. And we're seeing the papers and, you know, we're seeing media saying adults are behaving poorly. you know, some lady just got jumped. She's working at this restaurant, and she told the people they had to have masks, and they literally jumped her.
Yeah.
You know, and so we're living in really crazy times right now. And we do need to remember that each of us is enough. Each of us is special. Each of us is valuable.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know, that has to be just like, you know, Darla said, that has to be something that's constantly taught and constantly shared and constantly spoken to people, you know. And not to digress either, but you know, when I started doing my journey with podcasting, I initially started with another show before the doll show. And that show really had a lot to do with words, because I created card decks that had positive words on there. And I created a session that people can utilize called I Am You Are, because I wanted it to be something where people had an opportunity to speak powerful words to each other, not just doing self-love, but being able to have somebody else speak it and receive those words. Because even though we speak them, we have a hard time receiving them and believing that that's who we are. And I did that because of my own challenges that I had with words, of believing something about who I was. And it doesn't make a difference whether you're 5 or 50 or 65. You know, there are things that's going to show up in your life where you doubt your self-worth. And I wanted to be able to work on that for myself. But you know, like you said, life is interesting and the universe is always showing you other ways. And it just said to me, why would I just use the cards for me when I could actually help to empower other people by using affirming words? And so that's what I started doing. And that's how I started doing the podcast. And then I wound up switching over to In the Doll World. But those cards are part of my everyday growth. And I think that, you know, the fact that we don't sit down and have those conversations with our children, we don't, you know, take the time to say, oh, you know, you're brilliant, you're special, you're, you know, exceptional, you're incredible, on a regular basis, because those are the things that they need to hear. Because if we're not going to value them, then it's, you know, it's harder for them to find ways to value themselves. So
Georgette, those cards need to be in every home, in every school district. No, I'm very serious. And even more so now because of this pandemic. I dare say there are people who are studying the repercussions, and we haven't even begun to see the repercussions of what's going to come out of this pandemic, you know, in terms of our children, as well as our own selves.
Yes.
And I look at it even in terms of, from a historical standpoint, when we look at who has in essence undergirded the curricula and what our children receive in terms of not just images, but in terms of history and in every aspect of it.
Wow.
When we talk about erasure, when we talk about that, so when we began to try to navigate this thing called life, and we've been erased, and the truth has been so skewed, it's no wonder we get what we get. But it's only because we had people in our lives, Georgette and Tammy, who affirmed, you're not a so-and-so, you're a child of God. You're not a so-and-so, you're brilliant. You're not a you're going to be, girl, you're going to be somebody, and press $5 in your hand. That's what we had. And that's what we have to do. And those cards are very needed. Those cards are very needed because they worked for you, and they will continue.
They work for me all the time. And every time I share them, they work for the people I share them with. Honestly,
absolutely.
I can't even. Tammy has experienced them with me. I don't really mean to be going to rant about my cards. I just thought that it was important for me to share that with you, because I know you were talking about self-worth, and I think that is something that's so important, and it's just so needed.
But here but we're talking about the journey, and this is what I'm saying. It's organically these things happen because there's synergy there. And then because there's synergy, then there's collaboration.
Right, that's true.
Collaboration, this is what we create because of the collaboration. So it's all what we started out talking about in terms of the journey and who we meet along the way to be able to, because our destinies are entwined anyway, to be able to collaborate so that we can get this out for our children and out for people, our people. Because people are needing what we have.
Yes, so true.
This
Okay,
is
great.
amazing. And
All
one
right.
of the things too, I wanted to share with my website is www.niyakids.com, www.niyakids.com. You can go on there, you can check out the book, you can check out the dolls, you can check out a whole lot of things. We're always, putting new and exciting things on there. So I invite you to continue to come with us along the journey in all
And
things Naya.
it is a
All things Naya.
beautiful,
I
oh, I
love it.
love that. All things Naya.
Yeah, me too.
Yes. And it is a beautiful journey. And thank you for joining us on In the Doll World and telling us your story and warming
you,
our
Darla.
hearts like you do. Yes. Yeah. That's exactly being our sister Darla. You are
I thank you.
always, yeah, it's always a blessing, honestly, to talk to you and to just, I don't know, it's always uplifting. Your story and the way that you see the world is so
Yes.
positive. And so it's wonderful to share that with our viewers. It's wonderful to be able to think that someone leaves this show remembering, I do have a gift. I am somebody. I am enough.
Yes.
That's powerful. That's
That's it.
powerful there. Yeah. So thank you for joining us on In the Doll World.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. This has definitely been such an enriching opportunity. Anytime I get a chance to be able to share, what we've been blessed to do and the journey, it's just a joy. So thank you again for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Much love from Tammy.
Georgette.
And In the
And
Doll
In the Doll
World.
World.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.